Hi, this is Lara at Elliott Forex with your free end of the week S&P analysis for the week ending Friday the 30th of July. Starting out with my main wave count for the S&P, I'm just going to go from this closer in daily chart. I've got 4 different charts to show you, so I don't have time in this video to show you in historical analysis. If you would like to see that, please look at the previous video. So here was the end of primary wave 2 and the beginning of primary wave 3. Primary wave 3 with a 1, 2, expanded 3, 4, 5 to end minor 1, working on the end of an ABC zigzag up for minor wave 2. Nicely contained in a parallel trend channel drawn using Elliott's technique, a trend line first from the start of A to the end of B, a parallel copy placed on the high of A. I want to see a full day's bar opening and closing below the lower edge of this parallel channel before I'm really confident of a trend change at minor degree from 2 up to 3 down. I'm really confident of this invalidation point. I do not think we're in a bullish situation. I do not think we're going to see any movement above 1.1220. I have 2 wave counts at the hourly chart level for this piece of movement that I have labelled C blue from this low of, C pink from this low here to this high here, taking you to the first one now. It's possible that wave C pink to end wave 2 blue is unfolding as an ending expanding diagonal. It certainly is possible and has a really satisfactory look to see each of these each of these green waves subdividing into zigzag. This first wave has a really strong 3-wave look. Second wave cannot be anything other than a 3-wave zigzag. This third wave has a pretty good 3-wave structure look to it. I think this looks most likely as a 3-wave structure. Thereafter, we have a leading expanding diagonal for an A wave to the downside, a sharp little B, and a short little C wave. My only problem with this wave count is seeing this piece of movement here as a 5-wave structure. I have a little bit of a problem with that. Thereafter, we probably need another, we definitely, according to this wave count, need another push to the upside for wave 5 green to end wave C pink. And because this is an expanding diagonal, wave 5 green must be at least as long as 3 green. It should be longer. Therefore, a minimum requirement to the upside is 1143.90 points. A target to the upside is 1179.13. That's where wave 5 green will reach 1.618, the length of 3. And that's reasonably likely if this wave count is correct, because this wave 3 green was just 2.5 points short of 1.618, the length of this wave 1. So it would be reasonable for wave 5 to have a similar Fibonacci ratio relationship for it. Thereafter, with that final push up towards that target, we should see a trend change at minor degree back to the downside and some very strong downwards movement. If before that happens, we see any movement below 1064.9, this wave count is immediately invalidated because wave 4 green cannot move past the end of wave 2. If that happens and we see movement below this point, then this is the wave count we should be using. I don't like this wave count as much, however. I think it seems somewhat forced. It's easy enough to see this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave structure. That's fine. This is still a 3. Once we get into this piece of movement, however, it's getting more difficult to see it as a 5-wave structure. From this low to this high, this has a really strong 3-wave look. Also, and most troublesome, I don't like counting this piece of movement as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think from this low to this high, this is obviously a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Seems to fit much better. However, once we get into the downwards movement with our leading expanding diagonal again, this time a wave 1 instead of A 3 or a 5, however you want to count it for A, I like this piece of movement seen as a 3-wave structure for a B. This is about the only thing I really like about this wave count. This is technically possible, it just doesn't have a very good look. If we see any movement above 1121.9, I will readily and happily invalidate this wave count and discard it. It needs to see movement, however, below 1064.9 for it to be confirmed. I still have this alternate wave count at the daily chart level. It's only going to work now if wave C pink is unfolding as a contracting ending diagonal. This wave count differs from the main in that wave 1 at minor degree ended earlier. We still had that trend change from upwards of 2, primary wave 2, and this is where primary wave 3 began with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to end minor 1 earlier, followed by an expanded flat correction for wave 2 blue with a 3-wave structure for A. A flat correction requires A to subdivide to 3. A 3-wave structure for B. The reason I like this wave count is that this piece of movement is more easily seen as a 3-wave structure. It's possible to count it as a 5. That does have a couple of problems though, not major, and no rules are broken. It just has a best visual look as a 3-wave structure. Thereafter, the only way that this wave C can be unfolding with 4 significantly moving into 1 price territory is as an ending contracting diagonal. An ending diagonal requires each wave to subdivide into a zigzag. It is certainly possible to see this upward structure as a 3-wave zigzag. It's also really easy to see this 3rd wave green as a 3-wave structure. It's most easily seen as a 3. 2 and 4 obviously have corrective wave counts. That's really easy. This wave count has a minimum upward length of wave 5 green because it's an ending contracting diagonal. Wave 5 cannot be any longer than wave 3, therefore any movement above 1154.2 immediately invalidates this wave count. So the situation is a little bit murky as we get towards the end of the 2nd wave minor degree correction. Probably the best thing to do in such a situation with so many viable alternate wave counts is to just exercise a little patience and use Elliott's channeling technique to confirm for us when we have that trend change. I find in such a situation that's the most reliable technique before entering any further trades. What I am confident of, and I am still really confident, we're in a very bearish situation with the S&P. We should see new lows and we should see some really strong downwards movement. I just am not entirely confident of how high it's going to go before we see that trend change. Hopefully the next couple of days trading next week will clarify the situation. I've been moving house this week and I've also had a hard drive die, so hopefully next week things will settle down and I'll be able to give this S&P analysis to you on a more daily basis. I hope everyone out there is having a fabulous weekend.